The morning started like any other, quiet, simple, and uneventful. I was sitting by the kitchen window, sipping my coffee while my 6-year-old son, Ethan, played with his toy cars on the floor. The sound of the rain tapping against the window made everything feel calm, peaceful even. But little did I know that in just a few hours, my entire life would change forever. "Mommy, are we rich?" Ethan suddenly asked, his tiny voice filled with curiosity. I smiled. "Not yet, sweetheart, but maybe someday." He giggled, holding up one of his toy cars. "When I grow up, I'll buy you a big house." My heart melted. All I ever wanted was a simple, happy life for my little boy. One without worry, one without the kind of pain I silently carried every single day. Because truth be told, my marriage wasn't what it looked like from the outside. My husband, Daniel, was once charming, kind, and deeply in love, or at least he seemed that way when we first met. But over the years, something changed. He became distant, cold, and impatient. He worked long hours as a financial manager at a private company downtown. Every evening, he'd come home late, reeking of expensive perfume and pretending it was just from office meetings. I knew something wasn't right, but for the sake of Ethan, I stayed quiet. That morning, I was cleaning the living room when I found an envelope on the coffee table, one I'd forgotten about for days. It was from the state lottery office. I chuckled to myself, remembering the night I bought that ticket. I'd been exhausted and sad after another argument with Daniel, and on a whim, I bought a $5 ticket from the gas station. It was just something to distract me from my pain. I tore open the envelope absent-mindedly and unfolded the letter. Then I froze, my eyes widened, my hands trembled. The letter said, "Congratulations. Your ticket number 5472089 has won the grand jackpot, $50,000. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. My heart pounded in my chest so hard it felt like it might burst. $50 million, I whispered in disbelief. I checked again. The number, the code, the barcode, everything matched. It was real. It was actually real. I laughed, then I cried. Then I laughed again. I ran to Ethan, picked him up, and twirled him around. "Mommy, what happened?" he giggled. I hugged him tightly. "Baby, we're going to be okay. We're going to have everything we ever dreamed of." For the first time in years, I felt free. The first thing that came to my mind was Daniel. Despite everything, the arguments, the distance, he was still my husband. Maybe this money would fix us. Maybe we could start fresh. I decided to surprise him. It was almost lunchtime, so I quickly dressed Ethan, packed the letter in my purse, and drove toward Daniel's office. On the way, my mind raced with thoughts. Maybe he'd be proud of me. Maybe he'd hug me and say, "You did it, sweetheart." Maybe we could finally buy that little countryside home we always dreamed about when we were young. For the first time in years, I believed we could heal. When we reached the office building, I noticed something odd. Daniel's car was parked there, which was normal, but next to it, there was a red Mercedes I didn't recognize. I brushed it off, maybe a client's car. Ethan held my hand tightly as we walked through the hallway. The receptionist smiled politely when she saw me. "Oh, Mrs. Carter," she said softly, "Mr. Carter's in his office, but he's with someone right now." "With someone?" I asked. "A client?" She hesitated. Yes, I think so." Something in her tone didn't sound right, but I smiled anyway and said, "That's okay. It's a surprise." We walked up the stairs quietly. I could already hear faint voices coming from Daniel's office. As I reached the door, I paused. A woman's laughter echoed softly from inside. I frowned. It wasn't business laughter. It was intimate. I froze in place, gripping Ethan's hand tightly. He looked up at me, confused. "Mommy?" "Shh," I whispered, kneeling to his level. "Stay here, baby. Mommy just needs to talk to Daddy for a moment." He nodded, his innocent eyes full of trust. I took a deep breath and walked closer to the door. The voices became clearer. Then, I heard Daniel's voice. He was laughing, the same laugh he used to have when we first fell in love. But now it wasn't with me. "Daniel, stop!" a woman whispered, giggling. "What if someone walks in?" "Let them," Daniel said in a tone that made my stomach twist. "You're worth the risk." I felt my blood run cold. It couldn't be. It couldn't be him. My heart pounded in my ears as I pressed my ear to the door. Then I heard a sound, something soft, something that confirmed every fear I had ever buried deep inside. My hands trembled as I turned the doorknob slowly. But before I could open it fully, I stopped. A part of me didn't want to see, didn't want to believe, didn't want to destroy whatever tiny piece of hope was left inside me. But the truth doesn't wait for permission. I stepped back and whispered to myself, no, not here. Not now, not with Ethan. My chest tightened with rage and heartbreak. I picked up my phone and texted Daniel, pretending nothing was wrong. Hey love, I'm downstairs with Ethan. We came to surprise you. There was silence for a few seconds. Then suddenly I heard movement inside, hurried, panicked movement. A few minutes later, the door opened. Daniel stood there, shirt half buttoned, hair slightly messy, his face pale as snow when he saw me. Lily, what are you doing here? Before I could answer, I saw her behind him, a woman fixing her blouse, her lipstick smudged. It was Melissa, his secretary, the same woman I had trusted, the same woman who had dinner at our home just weeks ago. Mommy? Ethan said softly from behind me. Daniel froze. Melissa turned pale. For a moment, no one spoke. The entire hallway was heavy with tension. I held up the envelope, the one that had changed my life just an hour ago. Daniel, I said quietly, I came here to tell you that our lives just changed forever. He blinked, confused, his guilt mixing with curiosity. What do you mean? I won the lottery, I said flatly. $50 million, his eyes widened. Melissa's mouth dropped open. But before either could speak, I added, and now, I see who you truly are. Daniel took a step forward. Lily, please! I raised my hand. Don't you dare speak. Tears filled my eyes, but my voice stayed strong. You didn't just lose me today, Daniel. You lost everything. The silence in that hallway was suffocating. Daniel just stood there, frozen, his eyes darting from the envelope in my hand to my tear-streaked face. Melissa shifted uncomfortably behind him, clearly wishing she could disappear. For a long, tense moment, no one said a word. The sound of the rain outside filled the space between us, soft but heavy with meaning. Lily, listen, please. This isn't what it looks like, Daniel finally stammered. I laughed bitterly. Oh, really? Then tell me, what exactly does it look like, Daniel? Because from here, it looks like my husband was making out with his secretary in his office during lunch hours, while his wife and son were on their way to surprise him. He opened his mouth, but I raised a trembling hand. Just don't insult me any further. Ethan was still standing a few feet away, holding his little backpack, looking frightened. I took a deep breath and forced a smile for him. Come on, sweetheart, I whispered. Let's go. But as I turned to leave, Daniel reached out and grabbed my wrist. Lily, please, his voice cracked. You don't understand, it's not serious. It was a mistake. I turned sharply, meeting his eyes with a calmness that came from somewhere deep inside me. A calm that only pain can create. A mistake? I said quietly. You call betrayal a mistake? You call disrespect a mistake? You call breaking your family apart a mistake? I pulled my hand away. He flinched as though I had slapped him. Melissa cleared her throat awkwardly. Maybe I should... Shut up! Daniel snapped at her without looking back. That was the final spark that ignited something in me. I stepped forward, my voice rising for the first time. Don't you dare speak to her like that now. You didn't seem to mind her 10 minutes ago. His face turned red. Lily, please! People can hear. Oh, I want them to hear. I said, my voice trembling but strong. I want every person in this building to know that Daniel Carter, the perfect husband, has been sleeping with his secretary while his wife was raising their child alone at home. The receptionist downstairs froze mid-call. A few heads turned from nearby offices. Daniel looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. I grabbed Ethan's hand and began walking toward the elevator. Lily, Daniel called after me. Wait, please, we can talk about this. I turned one last time. Talk about what, Daniel? You've been lying for months, maybe years. I trusted you. I gave you everything. My love, my time, my faith, and this is what you gave me back. He took a step closer, his voice desperate now. You can't just walk away like this. We have a child. I turned and met his eyes coldly. Exactly, I have a child. And he deserves to grow up watching his mother respected, not humiliated. Then I pressed the elevator button, still holding the winning ticket envelope tightly in my hand. When the doors closed, Daniel's face disappeared behind the steel walls. That was the moment it truly hit me. My marriage was over. I knelt down beside Ethan, who was looking up at me with tears in his little eyes. "Mommy, why is Daddy angry?" he asked softly. I swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "Daddy just made a big mistake, baby, but we'll be okay." He nodded, trusting me completely, because that's what children do. They believe in their mothers even when the world collapses. Back home, I locked the door and sank onto the couch. For a long time, I just sat there staring at the lottery envelope. $50 million. A number so big it didn't even feel real. A part of me wanted to celebrate. Another part wanted to cry until my heart gave out. Then I remembered Daniel's face when I told him. That look, the shock, the guilt, the fear of losing control, it told me everything I needed to know. He didn't regret cheating, he regretted getting caught. And worse, he regretted losing access to the money I had just won. That night, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Daniel called over and over again. At first, I ignored him. But when the calls turned to texts, dozens of them, I finally read one. "Daniel, Lily, please, I'm sorry." I panicked. "Melissa means nothing. Can we talk for Ethan's sake?" Then another. "Daniel, I made a mistake. Don't throw everything away. We can start over. You won the lottery. That's amazing. We can rebuild." My hands shook. The irony was unbearable. He wasn't apologizing for betraying me. He was begging because I had something he wanted. I turned off my phone. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of peace, the kind that only comes after a storm. I made breakfast for Ethan, helped him get ready for school, and dropped him off with a smile. Then I went straight to the state lottery office to verify my win in person. The staff congratulated me, took my ID, and confirmed everything. It was real. I was officially a multimillionaire. When they handed me the verification form, I took a deep breath. The clerk smiled kindly and said, "Most people get nervous or excited at this point." I smiled back weakly. I guess I already used up all my emotions. On my way out, I stopped by a nearby park. It was quiet, with birds singing and the scent of wet grass in the air. I sat on a bench and looked up at the sky. I thought about all the years I had spent trying to fix something that was already broken. All the times I had convinced myself that love meant endurance, even when it meant enduring pain. But now, I finally saw it clearly. Sometimes life gives you a storm not to destroy you, but to clear your path. By evening, Daniel was waiting outside the house when I returned. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, hair messy. As I stepped out of the car, he walked toward me. "Lily, please, just 5 minutes." I didn't respond. I opened the door, but he gently blocked it with his hand. "Please," he whispered, "I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. It was stupid. I love you, Lily. You and Ethan are everything to me." I met his eyes. There was guilt there, but also something else. "Desperation, is that so?" I said quietly. "Because yesterday, I saw exactly what everything means to you." He swallowed hard. "I swear it won't happen again. We can start over. You don't have to do this alone. We're a family." That word made me flinch. "A family?" I repeated. "Daniel, a family doesn't lie. A family doesn't cheat. A family doesn't make love in office chairs while pretending to work late." He fell silent. Then he said the one thing that confirmed my worst suspicion. "Lily, think about Ethan. Think about our future. You can't raise him alone, especially now that you have so much money. People will take advantage of you." There it was, not love, not remorse, just fear of losing control. I stepped back and looked at him one last time. "Daniel," I said softly, "you already took everything from me. My peace, my trust, my hope. But this time you won't take my future." He blinked. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying it's over," I said firmly, "completely. And I'll make sure Ethan grows up knowing his mother stood up for herself." Before he could answer, I closed the door, not just in his face, but on the entire chapter of our marriage. That night, I tucked Ethan into bed and kissed his forehead. He looked up at me sleepily. "Mommy," he whispered, "are we happy now?" Tears filled my eyes. I smiled. "Not yet, baby, but we're getting there." As I turned off the lights, I whispered to myself, "Sometimes life has to break your heart before it hands you the key to freedom." The next few days were strangely quiet. For the first time in years, my house felt peaceful. No tension, no late-night arguments, no fake apologies, just me and Ethan and the soft hum of freedom. But peace, I realized, never lasts long when someone like Daniel is involved. 3 days later, I was on my way home from dropping Ethan at school when I noticed a familiar car parked across the street. A dark blue sedan, Daniel's. He was sitting inside, pretending to read something, but I could feel his eyes watching my every move. I sighed and went inside, locking the door behind me. For hours I tried to ignore it. I cooked, cleaned, and even turned up the TV, but every time I looked out the window, he was still there. Waiting, watching. By evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I walked right outside, arms crossed. "What do you want, Daniel?" I shouted. He stepped out of the car, looking nervous. "Lily, please, just hear me out." "Why are you following me?" I demanded. "This is harassment." "I'm not stalking you," he insisted. "I'm just worried. You've got this lottery money now. You're vulnerable." I laughed bitterly. "I'm not vulnerable, Daniel. I'm free." "That's what you don't understand." He ran a hand through his hair. "Lily, please, you don't know how much stress I've been under. Losing you, it's killing me." I looked at him carefully. He had dark circles under his eyes, but there was something else too, a flicker of frustration. A kind of hunger, not for love, but for control. "Daniel," I said, "you made your choices. Live with them." He stepped closer. "I messed up, I know. But you can't just throw away everything we've built together. The house, the memories, Ethan." My jaw clenched. "You threw it away the moment you brought another woman into your arms." He lowered his voice. "You don't understand. I made a mistake. But if you just let me back in, we can fix everything. I'll even put your name on the new investment." I froze. "Investment?" He hesitated. "I mean, now that you've won the money. We could make it grow together." And there it was again. That gleam in his eyes. Greed, not remorse. I smiled sadly. "Goodbye, Daniel." Then I went back inside and locked the door again. That night I sat in the kitchen staring at the check confirmation from the lottery commission. 50 million. I thought about how strange life was, how it could give you everything right after taking everything away. I didn't want revenge. I didn't even want closure. I just wanted peace. But peace was not what I was going to get. The next morning, I got a call from my lawyer, Mr. Benson. "Lily," he said, "I just got word from your husband's attorney. Daniel is filing for joint custody of Ethan." "What?" I almost dropped the phone. "He hasn't even asked to see Ethan." "I know," Mr. Benson said carefully. "But he's claiming that you're emotionally unstable after winning the lottery. He says you're not capable of raising a child alone." My heart started racing. "That's ridiculous. He's the one who cheated. He abandoned us." "I believe you," Benson said gently. "But we'll need to gather evidence. His lawyer is aggressive, and from what I've heard, Daniel's trying to paint himself as a concerned father." I sank into a chair, shaking. Of course, he wasn't after Ethan. He was after the money. That night, after putting Ethan to bed, I sat alone in the living room with my thoughts. All this time, I thought Daniel had hit rock bottom. But now I realized he was just getting started. He was going to use my son, my little boy, as a weapon to regain control. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to cry this time. If it was a war he wanted, I'd give him one. The next day, I visited Mr. Benson's office to start the paperwork. He was a kind man in his 50s with graying hair and sharp eyes. "Lily," he said as I sat down, "before we go to court, I need to ask something important. Do you have proof of his affair?" I nodded. "I do. I walked in on them. I even took photos that day. I didn't mean to, but I had my phone in my hand." "Good," he said. "That will help establish moral fault. And since you were the one taking care of your son financially and emotionally, the court will likely favor you." I sighed with relief. Thank God. But Mr. Benson wasn't finished. "There's one more thing," he said. "Daniel's filed an emergency request to freeze your lottery funds, claiming you're unstable and may spend it recklessly." "What?" He nodded grimly. "He's trying to control your finances, Lily. You need to move your winnings into a protected trust account immediately. Otherwise, the court might consider a temporary hold." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My husband, the same man who stole from me, cheated on me, and humiliated me, was now trying to steal my freedom all over again. When I got home, I made some calls and transferred my winnings into a secured trust under my lawyer's supervision. By the end of the day, everything was protected. Daniel couldn't touch a cent. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was one step ahead of him. But the calm didn't last long. That evening, as I was putting Ethan to bed, he asked something that broke me inside. "Mommy," he whispered, "Daddy said we might live with him soon. Is that true? My heart twisted. He told you that? Ethan nodded. He said you're too sad to take care of me. I clenched my fists, trying not to cry. Listen to me, sweetheart. Mommy loves you more than anything. I'm not sad, I'm strong, and I'll always take care of you. He smiled sleepily. I know, Mommy. You're the strongest. I kissed his forehead and turned off the light. But inside I was shaking. Daniel wasn't just after the money. He was trying to turn my son against me. A few days later, I decided to confront him one last time. I drove to his office, the same place where everything had started. But this time, I wasn't the same broken woman who had found him cheating. When I walked in, the receptionist looked up nervously. Mrs. Carter. Miss Taylor, I corrected coldly. I'm not his wife anymore. Daniel came out of his office looking surprised. Lily? What are you doing here? I held up the custody papers. You think you can take my son from me? Over my dead body, he sighed dramatically. Lily, please don't make this ugly. I just want what's best for Ethan. What's best for Ethan? I repeated, laughing bitterly. You mean yourself? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You're making a mistake, Lily. You can't fight me. I have connections. I can make this very difficult for you. I looked him straight in the eye. Then do your worst, he smirked. You always were too proud. I leaned forward. No, Daniel. I was too forgiving, but not anymore. I turned and walked out, leaving him standing there, powerless for once. That night, as I watched Ethan sleep, I realized something profound. Money doesn't change people. It reveals who they truly are. And Daniel's true face had finally shown itself. But what I didn't know was that this battle was far from over, because in the coming days, Daniel would cross a line I never thought he'd dare to cross. And when he did, the game would change forever. The next morning started like any other. Sunlight peeking through the curtains, the smell of coffee filling the kitchen, and Ethan humming softly while drawing at the table. But beneath that peaceful morning glow, I felt a storm coming. I didn't know why, but something in my gut told me that Daniel wasn't finished yet. Later that day, I received an email from my lawyer. It contained court documents. Daniel had escalated his claim. Not only was he demanding joint custody, but he'd now filed for temporary financial guardianship over me, claiming I was emotionally unstable and financially irresponsible. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the lies. According to him, I had recklessly invested large sums and put Ethan's future at risk. None of that was true. I hadn't spent $1 beyond daily needs. It was pure manipulation. I slammed my laptop shut, furious. How could he stoop this low? I whispered. That evening, my mother, Grace, came over. She'd always been my rock, calm, wise, and quietly strong. When I told her everything, she just listened, her eyes calm and thoughtful. When I finished, she said softly, "He's desperate. Men like Daniel don't know how to lose control. That's why they destroy everything when they realize they've lost you." I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. He's not even thinking about Ethan, Mom. He's just trying to hurt me. She took my hand. Then don't give him what he wants. Stay calm, stay smart. You have the truth, and you have power now. Her words reminded me of something I had nearly forgotten. Power isn't just money. It's knowing your worth. 2 days later, my lawyer called again. Lily, Mr. Benson said carefully, something new just came up. You're not going to like it. I felt my stomach drop. What now? He hesitated. Daniel's mistress, Claire, she's filed a statement claiming you were verbally abusive during your marriage. She's saying she was afraid for Daniel's safety. What? I shouted. She's lying. She's the one who broke my home. I know, Benson said gently. But she's smart. She's using her position to paint Daniel as a victim. We'll need to counter that with evidence. I rubbed my forehead, trying to stay calm. Evidence. Okay, I have messages. His texts, the threats, the night he begged to come back. Would that help? Absolutely, Benson replied. Keep everything. We'll build your defense around it. That night, after putting Ethan to bed, I sat in my living room, scrolling through years of old messages. Each text from Daniel felt like a wound reopening. His lies, his manipulation, his charm that turned into cruelty. Then I stumbled upon something strange, a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was from months before the affair. It read, "Meet me behind the office after hours." Don't bring her, she'll find out eventually. The number was saved under Client C. My hands froze. C for Claire. My heart pounded, so it wasn't some sudden affair. They'd been seeing each other long before I found out. But that wasn't all. There were transfers, screenshots of bank alerts. Thousands of dollars sent from Daniel's business account to Claire over the course of 6 months. He'd been paying her, not love. Blackmail. I called Mr. Benson immediately. He picked up groggily. It was nearly midnight. "Mr. Benson, I found something," I said breathlessly. Bank transfers. Messages. He was sending her money. There was a pause. "Are you sure?" "Yes, thousands of dollars." This wasn't an affair. It was something else. Maybe she was blackmailing him. I heard him sit up. "That changes everything, Lily. If we can prove Claire's involvement in any kind of extortion, Daniel's case collapses instantly. Save everything. We'll file a counterclaim." My heart was racing. "I'll email it all tonight." "Good," he said firmly. "And Lily, don't contact Daniel or Claire directly." "Let me handle it." I nodded. "I won't." But deep down I knew myself. If there was one thing I couldn't do, it was stay silent. The next afternoon, I drove to Daniel's office. Again, but this time I wasn't scared. I had proof and power. When I walked in, the receptionist looked startled. Miss Taylor, I'm here to see Daniel," I said calmly. "Tell him it's urgent." A few moments later, he stepped out looking annoyed. "Lily, this isn't the time." I held up my phone. "Oh, I think it's exactly the time." "You want to play dirty?" "Let's talk about these," he frowned. "What are you talking about?" "Don't act innocent," I said, scrolling through the screenshots. "The payments, the messages. Meet me behind the office? You were paying her to keep quiet, weren't you?" He froze. His jaw tightened. For a moment, his mask slipped. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I think I do," I shot back. "She wasn't just your mistress, Daniel. She was using you. And now you're both trying to destroy me to cover it up." He stepped closer, his voice low and sharp. "Delete those messages, Lily. Now." I met his gaze without fear. "No," his eyes darkened. "You're going to regret this." I smiled coldly. "No, Daniel." "You will." That night, I met with Mr. Benson again. He reviewed the files carefully, his face growing more serious with every document. Finally, he said, "This is powerful evidence. We'll expose both of them in court. But Lily, this also means things could get ugly." "Daniel won't give up easily." I nodded. "Let him try." But just as we were finalizing our counterclaim, Benson's assistant walked in with breaking news. "Sir," she said quietly, "we just got word that Daniel's company is under investigation." "What?" I asked. "Apparently," she continued, "Claire filed a report against him, claiming he used company funds to cover personal expenses." "She's turning on him," my eyes widened. "She's what?" Mr. Benson smirked. "Looks like their alliance didn't last long." I sat back in my chair, speechless. For months, Daniel thought he could manipulate me, control me, destroy me. But karma had its own timing. That night, I tucked Ethan into bed with a peaceful heart for the first time in a long while. As he drifted off to sleep, I whispered softly, "You see, baby, the truth always wins." Then I went to the balcony and looked up at the stars. The money didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that I had survived, and I was stronger than ever. But just when I thought it was all over, a message pinged on my phone. It was from an unknown number. "You think it's over, Lily? Think again." And attached to it was a photo of me and Ethan, taken earlier that day. Someone was watching us. The moment I saw that photo on my phone, my breath caught. It wasn't an old picture, it was today. Ethan and I were walking from his school, my hand on his shoulder, sunlight catching the tips of his hair. The angle made it clear, someone had been following us. My heart pounded as I locked every door and checked the windows. Ethan was asleep in his room, peaceful and unaware. I couldn't let him see the fear on my face. I called my lawyer, Benson, but it went straight to voicemail. Then I tried the police. They told me to stay calm and not leave the house. But staying calm felt impossible. Someone out there knew where we were. Someone wanted me to feel unsafe. I barely slept that night. Every creak in the house made me jump. By morning, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I dropped Ethan off at school, kissed his forehead, and drove straight to Daniel's office. When I walked in, his assistant's eyes widened. "He's not here," she said quickly. "Where is he?" I demanded. She hesitated. "He hasn't come in today. And, the police were here asking questions yesterday." What kind of questions? She lowered her voice. About his company finances, about some offshore accounts, and about Claire. The name made my stomach twist. What about her? She's gone, the assistant whispered. Vanished, left her apartment, quit her job, disappeared. No one knows where she went. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. Gone? Yes. They said she might have taken some of the company's money. It was chaos. Daniel had lost everything. His company, his reputation, his control. And now he'd lost Claire too. But then, if he was broken and desperate, could he be the one sending those messages? That night, I sat on the couch, staring at the phone again. That same number sent another text. You ruined his life, Lily. You'll pay for it. This time there was a video attached. Hands, someone's hands, opening a box. Inside it, a small toy car. Ethan's toy car. The one he had lost last week. My blood ran cold. Whoever this was, they had been near my child. I immediately called Detective Harris, the officer who had handled my earlier complaint. He arrived within 20 minutes. Calm, composed, professional. Let me see the messages, he said. I showed him everything. The photos, the texts, the video. He frowned deeply. This is more serious than harassment, Ms. Taylor. Whoever this is, they're escalating. We'll set up surveillance around your house and track the number. Don't go anywhere alone. Do you think it's Daniel? I asked. Harris looked thoughtful. Maybe. But the tone, it doesn't fit him. This feels personal, yes, but not from someone you used to love. It feels like someone who wants revenge for something deeper. I frowned. What could be deeper than betrayal? He gave a small shrug. We'll find out soon. 2 days passed with no new messages. I tried to return to normal, working remotely, taking Ethan to school, calling my mom every night. But one evening, as I was cleaning up after dinner, I heard Ethan call from the living room. Mom, someone's at the door. My heart skipped. I looked at the clock. It was almost 9 p.m. I went to the window and peeked outside. A figure stood near the gate, half hidden in the shadows. Stay inside, I told Ethan softly, grabbing my phone. Then I stepped outside and called out, Who's there? The figure stepped forward, and under the dim porch light, I saw his face. Daniel, he looked destroyed. His clothes were wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, his face pale. Lily, he said hoarsely, please, I need to talk to you. I stayed where I was. You shouldn't be here, Daniel. Please, just listen, he pleaded. Everything's gone wrong, Claire. She's not who you think she is. I crossed my arms. Oh, I think I know exactly who she is. A manipulator, a liar, just like you. He shook his head desperately. No, you don't understand. She used me. She was after your money, Lily. She's dangerous. She's been threatening me too. My blood ran cold. What are you talking about? She found out you won the lottery before I did. She made me get close to you. Said she'd ruin my career if I didn't. His voice cracked. I thought I could control her, but she recorded everything. The affair, the money transfers, everything. He took a step closer. She's the one sending those messages. She's watching you, Lily. Please believe me, you're in danger. Before I could respond, bright headlights flashed across the driveway. A car screeched to a stop and a woman stepped out. Claire. Her once glamorous look was gone. She looked fierce, cold, and furious. So this is where you're hiding, she spat, glaring at Daniel. You really thought you could run to her for protection? Daniel raised his hands. Claire, please, shut up, she screamed, pulling something from her bag, a small pistol. I froze. Claire, I shouted. Put that down, she turned to me, eyes wild. You ruined everything. Do you know what he promised me? A new life, a new company. And then you came along with your millions and your pity. Her hands were shaking. He used me to get to your money. I used him to get what I deserved. And now, neither of you get to have peace. Before she could move closer, I heard sirens. Detective Harris's voice boomed from behind. Drop the weapon, Claire! She froze. Then, slowly, she turned the gun toward herself. But Harris rushed forward, tackling her to the ground. The gun clattered across the pavement. Everything after that blurred. Flashing lights, police shouting, Daniel in handcuffs for obstruction, Claire screaming about betrayal and lies. And me, standing there, shaking, clutching my son in my arms. 2 months later, the storm had finally passed. Claire was charged with extortion, blackmail, and assault. Daniel's company collapsed completely, and he was sentenced for fraud. The court granted me full custody of Ethan and full control of my finances. When it was all over, I moved to a quiet coastal town, far from the chaos, far from the noise. One morning, Ethan and I sat on the porch, watching the waves. He looked up at me and said, "Mom, are we safe now?" I smiled softly, brushing his hair back. "Yes, baby, we're finally safe." He grinned and ran off to play with his toy cars, the new ones, not the ones tied to the past. I sipped my coffee and looked out at the sea. I'd lost a husband, lost my peace, almost lost my mind, but I'd gained something more powerful than money: freedom, strength, and peace of mind. Sometimes life breaks you down so you can rebuild stronger. Trust doesn't always come from love, it comes from truth. And when people show you who they really are, believe them, because no amount of wealth, power, or revenge can buy peace. Only letting go can.